Can a believer marry an unbeliever? No. Shake your head like this. No. You dads, shake it sternly. No. 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 Some of you would ask, what right does anyone have to tell me who I can and cannot marry? And God says, I do. I created marriage, I created you. And if you belong to me, you need to listen to me. It's not unlike the situation with my sons and daughters. I promise you this. If my sons run off and marry women, or my daughters run off and marry men, without consulting Grace and I, or going against our counsel, it's not going to end well for them. Because we know them, we love them, we're there to help them make the second most important decision of your whole life. Your most important decision is, who's your God? Your second most important decision, who's your spouse? Those are the two most important decisions you ever make. And God here is saying, I've told you who you should not marry, and you married them. And it's not just a few of you, it's an epidemic and a problem. Now, some would look at the Bible and say, this book is 2,500 years old. It's so old, it no longer applies to us. Things have changed. Well, let's field test that. Are believers to this day marrying unbelievers? Yes. At what percent? According to a recent article in The Economist, 45% of marriages are what they call interfaith. God would use words like profane and abomination, but they would use the word interfaith. What that means is the Christian marries the Mormon, or the Mormon marries the Muslim, or the Muslim marries the Hindu. Different religions. And this is wrong. So, let's say you're at Mars Hill and you're a believer and you're like, okay, some of you are single. Okay? And it just, you're like, oh, like the fire alarm just went off in your mind. I'm dating someone who's an unbeliever. Okay? Don't start creating an account to defend yourself. Right? Hit the brakes, don't continue. It's not going to where there will be life and joy and they lived happily ever after. This is a very current problem. And what's at stake is legacy. If a believer marries an unbeliever, good luck having children who know and love the Lord and are wholeheartedly, singularly devoted to Him when mom and dad aren't even in agreement in their devotion or even who God is. You singles, hear me in this. Missionary dating leads to miserable divorce. Missionary dating leads to miserable divorce. Statistically, it's true. Bradford Wilcox, other sociologists that are noted, they have shown that the highest divorce rates are for people who have different religious beliefs. They get divorced more than any other group. The group that has the lowest divorce rates, Bible-believing, Jesus-loving, church-attending evangelical Christians. Some of you have been lied to. Christians get divorced as much as non-Christians. No, they don't. They just don't. They just don't. I can tell you, I've been doing this 17 years. I think this year we had 105 weddings. I know the marriages, I know the divorces, and I can tell you, those that are members of the church, their divorce rates are significantly lower than anyone else, especially those who marry someone from a different religious tradition. So, for those of you who are single, let me speak very clearly to you, right? Hear God the Father's talking to you. Let me with a father's heart talk to you. Let me speak to all who are single, especially those who are maybe a little older, those who aspire to be married, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like it's on the horizon anytime soon. Let me in particular speak to the single women. Recently, I've had a number of side conversations with godly, older, single women who aspire to be married, and I think are wonderful. I can't figure out why they're not married. I don't understand. they're great and single. And I don't understand. And I was talking to one of these gals. She came up. She said, Pastor Mark, what do I do? And I felt like her dad in that moment. Like, what would I tell my daughter? And so it kind of came to me, and I'll share it with you. I said, well, there's really only 6 options. Okay? I don't know why that's funny. I'm a dad who always has something to say. So here they are. 6 options for singles. Okay? 6 options for singles. You ready? Okay, take notes, single people. And I'm talking about those of you particularly who are single and aspiring to marriage. You want to be married, but you're not there yet. Either you're not ready, you're trying to get ready, or maybe you're a godly woman and a man has not come along yet who's fit to be a husband, and you're looking at your future saying, I don't know if it's going to happen for me. I would like to be married. I appreciate Mark's sermons. I like guys getting yelled at. I wish one would call me. Okay? But it's not happening for you. And I've had a lot of conversations with godly older women who aspire to be married, but it's not happening for them recently. So if this is you, you've really got 6 options. And number 1 is just sin. I'm going to date an unbeliever. I'm going to move in with somebody. I'm going to sleep with somebody. I'm going to play the singles scene. I'll find somebody who worships a different God or an atheist or, I'm just going to sin. I'm going to rebel. I'm going to do my thing. God, you've not come through for me, so I'm going to take matters into my own hands. What that's going to do, particularly for you ladies, it's going to harm your relationship with Jesus, and he's the most important man in your life. And any other man that hinders the relationship with the God man is the wrong man. Number 2, some of you are going to surrender. You say, you know what? I give up. I'm never going to get married. I need to give up hope. I need to take my heart, lock it up in a vault. Nobody ever gets to it. No more trying, no more dating, no more caring. I'm not even going to pray about it anymore. If somebody comes up to me and says, well, I'll introduce you to somebody. No, thank you. Okay? I'm not interested. I give up. I give up. Number 3, you can settle. You can start with a list of, I want somebody who loves Jesus too. They're breathing. Check. All right, that was my list. Now, some of you are single and your expectations are way too high. Your list is way too long. No one will ever meet it. And if they could meet it, they would have options other than you. Let me just tell you the way it is. If that person exists that's that amazing, they could find someone else, okay? I'm just telling you how it's going to go. Some of you, your list of expectations are way too low. Way too low. Need to have a reasonable expectation. And here's the key, singles. Don't just have a list for what you want in a spouse. Have a list of what you want to be for your spouse. If you're going to have a list, have 2 lists. Here's who I want to be, and here's who I'm hoping to meet. But what happens is after a while, you start to settle and cross things off your list, right? You're in your 20s. All of a sudden, you're like, say you're a woman. I want him to love Jesus, and I want to be able to follow him as our family leader, and I want to have kids. And then you hit 30, right? And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, my goodness. Well, now I got to check off that he can lead well and that I totally respect him, and I'll just find somebody who believes in God. And pretty soon, even that is, used to believe in God. Good enough. All of a sudden, you start settling. You start lowering your expectations. Don't do that. Don't be unreasonable, but have some expectations. And don't settle. It's better to be single than miserably married. And I'm not going to ask the married people to amen that point. But if they were in their honest moment, they would look at you and say, it's better to be single than in the situation that I'm in. Number 4, you can use this as an opportunity to just suffer. You could look at your singleness like a club to beat yourself. There's something wrong with me. I'm damaged goods. Nobody picked me. Nobody loved me. Nobody wants me. Everybody's rejected me. You could hand that club to Satan. Just let him beat you over and over and over and over. Don't do that. There are some women, Grace and I are friends with a lot of single women. Some of them are single moms. Some of them have never married. Some of them are widowed. And we'll just look at one another befuddled. I can't figure out why she's single. She's amazing. Grace will be like, I can't either. I don't understand. I can't comprehend. I don't understand. Sometimes if you're single, there's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes there is. Okay? Right? But sometimes there's nothing wrong with you. So don't beat yourself up, and don't allow others to beat you up, and don't allow Satan to beat you up. Number 5, you could strive. This is the person who says, I am going to be married. And it becomes like a full-time job. You're like, I'm going to go to every Christian dating site. I'm going to fill out a profile. I'm going to lie about who I am. I'm going to Photoshop myself so I look younger and happier. I'm going to go to every Christian singles ministry I can find. I'm going to go to every community group at my Mars Hill church. And then I'm going to go to other Mars Hill churches and all of their community groups too. And every time I leave the house, sometimes ladies will do this, I'm going to dress up like it's a pageant. I'm not even going to go to the mailbox unless I have mascara on and heels, okay? You're trying to put a lot of bait on the hook is what you're trying to do. It's a little too much. They're obsessed. It's too much. Calm down, right? If God had a mate for you, he wouldn't even need to be involved at this point. You've got it all nailed down. Okay? And some people become obsessed. And here's the deal. These people run the risk of loving marriage and not their spouse. They've got a script and they're just wanting to hand someone the lines. It doesn't matter who it is. God doesn't call us to just love marriage, but to love our spouse. Number 6, here's your option, what I would encourage you for, particularly those of you who are single with no marriage prospects on the horizon, though 9 out of 10 of you will statistically marry, but particularly for the godly women who love the Lord and are unsure if this day of their wedding will ever come, seek solace in this. You worship Jesus, who was married or single? Single. Lived what kind of life? Perfect life. True or false? Jesus left a legacy. No one in the history of the world has left a legacy equal to Jesus Christ, yet he never married and he never had children. His life was meaningful, his life was valuable, his life was purposeful, and his life was single. So for those of you who are single, you worship Jesus Christ, who didn't sin sexually, had relationships with the opposite sex that were appropriate and friendly, but not over any kind of line. He was single, but he was not alone. And he invested his life, he didn't waste his life, and we're part of his legacy. So when you're single and you're struggling with your singleness, know that the Jesus that you're talking to is a Jesus who understands. He's a high priest who sympathizes. He's a single God and Savior who has been where you are and is there to comfort you and to console you and to encourage you and to instruct you and to lead you and to guide you. And the truth is that the Bible talks a lot about marriage and family, but ultimately it's all about Jesus. And isn't it wonderful that we have a God who is single for those who are single, or at least single for a season? The most important decision you ever make is who your God is, Jesus Christ. The second most important decision is who you marry, and sometimes the best decision is not to marry. And for you ladies who are single, Jesus, the God-man, is the relationship that's the most important relationship you'll ever have with any man. And any man who would hinder the relationship with the God-man, he's the wrong man.